Um, Speaking of Sandstorm, Alex,
Yep.
from the from the blog posts that you guys were making on the New World Interactive website, um, you guys are working on a competitive matchmaking system, or you have plans for the matchmaking system. Maybe just clarify what you have planned, or is it a is it in the works, or is it something they have planned later down the road?
So the best I can describe it right now inside of the alpha is we have a competitive firefight mode that kind of mirrors what we have in kind of our competitive theater for insurgency right now, as well as we're planning on having matchmaking for launch as well, with like ranking systems and that sort of thing. Getting really official about all the ranks and how the matchmaking system works. We still have to kind of go through it and do more testing with more players, because it doesn't make sense right now with like only a percentage of the keys that we go out, a percentage of those actually sign up, and a percentage of those actually play at any given time to test out matchmaking yet. So it's still something that we're working towards, but we're hoping to make it easier than kind of the current system where we have to have places like the Insurgency Gym or the DGL or like another place where you kind of link up with people in kind of more of an informal process. Kind of have like a more formal process where you can just kind of boot up the game, search matchmaker, and get a competitive game, and then work towards like specific ranks and that sort of thing. So I guess that's the best way I can describe it right now before getting into more specifics as we refine the systems and get closer to launch.
Yeah. So you said, I mean, I can't believe this. You actually are. You said you are gonna have it for launch.
I think that's the plan right now.
Gotcha.
Obviously, we have to test it out.
Right. Of
It's
course, of
not
course.
something we've even been able to test with that many players so far. So,
Yeah.
um,
I mean matchmaking is a huge deal. I mean,
Oh yeah.
you guys are a small studio, so being able to make a game and then on top of it make matchmaking. I mean, that's super ambitious, and I know that people are super excited, and whether it comes at launch or it gets delayed a little bit, I think it's important that it's done right. So I'm always, I'm always okay, like if to get it working properly, I'll definitely wait. I think I'm super excited that the fact that you guys are focusing, on competitive play. I mean, you've been here the whole entire time. That alone is just amazing. So I'm
well,
super excited to see.
Yeah.
I'll put it this way as well. Like I play a lot of games with a lot of matchmaking, and those systems from when the game launched to what they are currently when I play them has changed entirely in
Right.
terms of the rules for matchmaking. So it's going to be a constantly evolving process. So whenever it
Right.
gets put in, what ends up being like the final state of matchmaking is going to change over time as we update the game. So
Right, and that's to be
so
expected.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and what's really good for it is that will, I mean, a built-in matchmaking system will explode the competitive community. I mean, there'll be a lot more people introduced to competitive play, so I'm super excited for that because that was always, you know, something we really wanted to see from the first iteration. So it was good that you guys started testing and hopefully to see it
And,
in launch.
Yeah, yeah,
and
especially for competitive, in that like competitive is an entirely different style of gameplay. Like if you take something like CS:GO, like you can get into server in 16 on 16 and the games are different, but you're kind of playing the same maps in the same way, and you can have like a server that's a 5 on 5 server and the kind of plays the same. I find competitive insurgency plays a lot different than when you get in an open or pug server.
right.
Just the level of communication and that sort of thing. So I think having that mode built into the game and having like an easy way for people to access without going to a third party is going to change the amount of people that want to get
Right.
into competitive.
Oh yeah.
Right. It's a step. It's another step. Like, oh, hey, what's competitor? Let me try that out. And then that's exactly what you need. You need a bridge. You need a bridge to get new players to try out competitive play. And I'm super excited for that. I mean, and what NWI has shown in the past is you guys have consistently and almost constantly updated your game for free. I mean, that's something that, I mean, you guys worked on, the current insurgency for like 3 years, and we got free updates and stuff like that, and the game changed hugely. I mean, I bought this game in its early access, $15 in 2014, and there's some alpha videos up. I mean, if you just see how much the game has changed, I mean, everyone knows that NWI pushes out content, so no matter what is released at launch, I'm sure that we'll see iterations come to matchmaking, and it's super exciting to hear that not only are you just thinking about it, but it's actually something planned. You know what I mean? That's super exciting. So I'm sure that whatever it is, like we're gonna really enjoy it, and it'll really help grow the competitive scene.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and obviously we have like competitive players inside of the alpha right now. I know there's a lot of like push for keys and that sort of thing, but we
Right.
do have a lot of competitive players, and we definitely look forward to their feedback in terms of like matchmaking systems and like the competitive mode and what's going to work and what's not going to work inside that mode as well. So
Right.
hopefully, once we open things up more to more players, we can get more feedback on that. But yeah, we are taking like competitive players' feedback on those sorts of issues.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I've heard, from the press over this last week, there was an event in Europe that you guys had, correct? There was a
Yeah,
co-op thing or something like that. That that was I've heard the co-op is, I heard from the Twitter and stuff that it looked really good, like, and you said it was hard or something like that. So
yeah. So in the past, when we've played it as developers, I mean, there's a lot of times where, well, I mean, we don't end up coming close to winning. The bots are pretty good and they swarm you pretty hard.
yeah,
Yeah, the journalists who were attending the Focus Home event, who's our publisher for Sandstorm, they were having trouble beating the bots as well. Apparently, on day one, they didn't end up beating them, and I didn't hear about day two. But it's interesting that and we will be continuing to update like the bot AI and try to balance it out, because we want to have like it be something that new players can enjoy, and like longtime players can actually have a challenge without having to load into a competitive game.
yeah.
But yeah, it's you should see previews from that event, and hopefully some interviews and that sort of thing over the next couple weeks.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, I can only imagine with the Unreal Engine. So for those that don't know, I think most of you probably do know, but Sandstorm is going to be on an entirely new engine. The current Insurgency is on the Source engine, and the new Sandstorm will be on the Unreal Engine. Completely different engines. I mean, Source is almost as old as me. So an Unreal Engine is super new.
Which
and
is super, super old, by the
So
way.
old.
Like,
Yeah.
super old.
And the Unreal Engine is super new. So I mean, you guys did a great job with co-op in Insurgency. I mean, bot mapping and AI is not easy in the Source engine, and the Unreal Engine has given you so many more tools at your disposal. I mean, I'm sure co-op's going to be pretty insane now. I mean, from the screenshots I saw on Twitter, it looked awesome, and from the trailer that you guys made, I mean, it looks so real and so
Oh
intense.
man, I showed people at work. I'm like, look at this game that's coming out.
Yeah.
So when you guys
Yeah,
posted the trailer, it was awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of speculation too when we released the trailer, whether everything's in engine. Everything is in engine, was recorded during gameplay. I think the only trick that we ever played on that footage, I think we did some like third person camera, especially for like the last shot where you can see the gun and the gun looks like low poly, and that's because
Yeah.
you're looking at it from like an actual third person perspective that we kind of fake in. And like if but just to make it a little bit more cinematic. But everything you see in there is taken from actual gameplay, and it's interesting now because like playing the game, and we still haven't gone through all the art passes and all the lighting passes and all the like stuff that they're going to add to levels. So hopefully it ends up looking even better once we get closer to launch.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and from the pictures we've seen of the environment and the maps that you guys released pretty early on, it looked beautiful. So, and I'm sure we can get more into that later today. I'm gonna be looking at our Newbloods scores here, and hopefully we'll be able to hop into a brand new match here in a second.
Yeah.
So stand by on that.
Yeah. This tournament is for newer players specifically, so we definitely try to cater to them in this event, and sometimes there can be a little bit of delays trying to get people into servers. As you know, a lot of people in Insurgency, this is going to be their first competitive game. So if you're wondering where the matches are, they're coming. We got a bunch more coming today, so just bear with us as we get it situated. So, um, so another question for you, Alex, since we're just sitting here. So maps. Now, there's a ton of information online about the maps. If you guys haven't already, just Google for Sandstorm. Um, but the maps we've heard, there will be bigger maps. Are we talking bigger maps like Breeze Push, or are we talking even bigger than that?
So I would say it really depends on the game mode. So basically, none of the maps we're planning right now are like direct ports from Insurgency maps. So what the developers decided to do was take like inspiration from our original maps. So you can see like elements and places that were inside of like original maps inside the newer maps. And generally, I would say like at their biggest, they are as big, if not bigger, because we're implementing vehicles in some of the modes. And those maps, I guess the plan is to have them scale to specific sizes depending on game mode. So lock off certain sections and that
Right,
sort of
which
thing.
which is kind of the same thing you guys do now,
Yeah.
which has worked out pretty well. I mean, it's a great way to get the most out of your maps.
Yeah, so if you have something like a transport vehicle, like there's a lot of like transport vehicles and vehicles where you can transport players across the map, and those work. And we have to have obviously like bigger streets so you can
Right.
drive vehicles through them and that sort of thing. And I would say like the open areas, there's a lot of them, and they're a lot bigger. But if you're still like into like the firefight style or the 5-on-5 style, like there will be more self-contained maps, and obviously we won't have vehicles inside of those game modes.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So
So
yeah, I would say in general, at their biggest, they are bigger than most of the insurgency maps,
But
but
you'll
it
be
really is
sectioned
gonna,
off, right? Yeah.
right.
yeah, it depends on which game mode you end up playing.
Gotcha. Um,
So you did mention vehicles. In terms of how do you think those vehicles will relate to competitive play? Do you guys think they'll be a part? Or do you think it'll be kind of a
So in terms of like 5v5 firefight, right now we have vehicles locked out altogether.
oh, okay.
But if we're talking like if people want to get into competitive play for other modes with like the bigger map and that sort of thing, obviously vehicles will be available through a lot of our modes. And there's like a lot of other stuff that gets added to um, like fire strikes and that sort of thing. And we're gonna have to balance out which one of those features like air support that we put in each one of those modes, because you might not want to put them inside of like a really small map where it'd be
Right.
easy to drop stuff in on. So that's something that we're going back and forth on and kind of trying to balance out what we put in each one of these game modes and what's available. But so far, it looks like for 5-on-5 competitive, we won't have vehicles in, but vehicles do provide an easy way for transport and actually like an assault capability when you have like a 16 versus 16 battle and some dude's like on a back of a gun and just blazing into them. And it's definitely a different way to play. So everybody can kind of get what they want out of the game depending on what the mode that
Yeah,
they're
and
playing on.
in the at least for this insurgency, you guys have kind of left a lot of different customizable options, like in the theater and stuff like that. Do you
Yeah.
think there'll be kind of a thing in Sandstorm where, oh well, we like vehicles on this mode or we don't, etc.
I think that I don't think we will be able to like unlock specific stuff based on mode per server. At least
Right.
that's when I talk to developers, that doesn't seem to be an option right now.
Okay.
But we will have like server settings for individual individual servers and that sort of thing. So same way that we have them in like the Steam game or the original Insurgency right now.
Gotcha. Okay. Sounds really good. So I have a personal question. So
Sure.
because there's vehicles, will we see a racing mode?
Oh, I haven't done that yet, but it sounds insane. Like, especially when we're doing testing right now, and we're like one of the biggest things you have to work on in terms of physics is vehicles are crazy with physics. Like we've had hilarious stuff before where like a guy will stand on the front of a vehicle and another guy will jump on the back, and that guy gets catapulted into the air like it was a
Like a
huge lever or
seesaw.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And So
That's
having
intended.
multiple vehicles just running around, we're gonna have to balance stuff out. But I think it could be possible. It's just not a game mode we have right there right now. Maybe down the road somewhere.
So yeah, I mean, all I'm gonna basically be doing is just running around in a Jeep, screaming at people and just yelling them over. I'm super excited for that. So
Yeah. And if you played PUBG before, you can do like the lean out of the vehicle too, like
oh
that same style. So like
you
I'm
can.
pretty sure a driver can lean out at
Oh,
the time.
I'm like, all right, guys, I'm out. Just jump out of the vehicle.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. That's another thing was weird with physics and animation, right? Like if you're gonna dive out of a car while it's moving, you have to program that in. And how do they end up going when you're going like, I don't know, 60 miles per hour and some dude decides to dive out of a car? They either instant die, do they roll out and then take huge amount of damage? There's all this stuff you have to consider for every one of these choices that you make. So
Well, I
That
am
sounds
super excited.
well. I hope some of those bugs make it over so I can play around with it.
oh, the bugs are the best part. It's also the part where like when people ask me and bug me for keys all the time, I'm like, well, there's some days where you join the server and the server's crashing constantly or you get these insane bugs. And sometimes they're funny, but sometimes they're not so much fun. So
Yeah, I
so
mean,
hopefully you can get everybody a chance to test, but I wouldn't wish server crashes on anybody.
so yeah, well, that's just how it goes. I mean, there's gonna be bugs like that, but it's also hilarious. I saw you guys posted some of them. So the
Yeah.
MC Hammer Pants on the blog. That was
Oh
super.
yeah, that one is amazing. There's all sorts of weird ones. Like I had one of our testers send me one the other day where it's on the gun. For some reason, a guy's two eyes, like just the eyeballs, were appearing and looking directly back at the person. So you got these two floating eyes looking right back at you as you're looking down your gun. It's the creepiest thing ever.
That's hilarious. So should be
All
going
right.
here game soon. Yeah. I
Yeah,
guess.
we got a